today. So we are on Facebook and YouTube Live. Wave and shout out to everybody who'll be watching this, and anyone who might like to tune in now and have a look in, you'll be welcome to do so and join me visually as well as audibly, of course, too. And please do get in touch as part of our programme. You know the usual details. I do love to hear from you. It's simply part of the chat element of this catechesis. 089 467 2000 is the text and WhatsApp number, plus 353 89467 2000. Do give a call on the landline 014 123 and now the Hain Cahar Hain 3 Cahar Cuig Shay, plus 353 again if you're outside of the Republic, the 26 counties. If you're in the 6 counties in the north or further afield still, you need to put a plus 353 14123 to that too. Email info@radiomaria.ie and write to us here as well if you wish in your own time. St. Anthony's Business Park, Ballymount Road, Dublin 22. So very, very grateful always to the many messages and contacts we receive from so many of you. Very grateful indeed. So happy St. Brigid's Day to you, and thank you to Margaret Griffin. It's coincidental that today indeed is her Sow and Grow programme. She sent us in lovely Brigid crosses, St. Brigid's crosses. You might well remember making these in your primary school days. We all did, I'm sure, and brought them home. And thanks indeed to Margaret for posting up a video. We have a video on our Facebook page if you'd like to learn how to make a St. Brigid's cross, if it's something new to you. There's always new generations, always new children who love making these in school when the teachers bring in the rushes and bringing them home. They're so simple to make. And so it's a lovely symbol of our faith and of our tradition. I don't know if you're old enough to remember how many years ago was it when our national broadcaster RTE used the St. Brigid's cross as a symbol for broadcaster, which is a lovely touch indeed. I'm not sure when it went out of vogue. I would probably say in the 1970s, I'm guessing. Certainly when I were a young lad, I remember them introducing a new logo. As companies are inclined to do, reinvent themselves. But a shame to see the drift away from faith. Maybe it was a sign, I don't know. No reason why we can't come back in that direction again. No reason at all. And reintroduce faith. As interesting, I see the Bishop of Kildare welcomes the new bank holiday, which I don't know if it's in honour of St. Bridget or dedicated to St. Brigid. I do hope it is. The Protestant Bishop too of Kildare and of Meath and Kildare, Church of Ireland, Bishop Pat Story, as well as Bishop Dennis Nulty, both welcome this news from our government. And I don't know, I know nothing about these things. Bank holidays all blur into weekdays for me because as a priest, it's just not on the radar, it's not on the register. Except when I was working as a teacher, maybe you'd appreciate the odd bank holiday, all right? And the students would too, and the teachers, no doubt, and the mums and dads as well. So apparently in the EU we are falling behind in terms of the number of bank holidays that we have. Other countries have far more. I think in the US they have very few, if any, bank holidays. I think Thanksgiving is probably the only day in the year that they may have. I'm not sure, to be honest. Somebody can enlighten me in that department. But by all accounts, Ireland is due an extra bank holiday or two, apparently. So the government has announced that there will be an additional bank holiday to take place around St. Brigid's Day each year. This year, I think the bank holiday is going to be slotted in on the 18th of March, which is an interesting spin on things. It's after St. Patrick. So I think St. Patrick's Day is a Thursday. Again, top of my head going on here. So that the addition of this year's extra bank holiday is the Friday, which means people get a weekend to tear into it and do all kinds of things they might like to do for 4 days off. And it's a great idea. I think fair play. That makes a lot of sense. And that's going to cheer people up no end. So, Brigid means many things to many people. The joint little statement of the two bishops, the Church of Ireland bishop and the Catholic bishops, say, symbol and story feature strongly in her life. For people of faith, St. Brigid represents that transition from paganism to Christianity in Celtic Ireland. You'll have seen, no doubt, lots of artistic depictions of St. Brigid of a kind of Celtic spirituality vein, which would depict her in various ways, as a kind of a goddess or a sort of Celtic warrior woman, this kind of thing. And they're very imaginative, and very often they're very colourful and very, very well executed as artistic representations. But the faith element suggests something altogether different, really. It was the year of 480, in and around, I think, the time of St. Patrick, not so far. They're alleged to have been associated in some way. Again, it just goes so far back, and there's so little in the way of a written account. We're left with a certain amount of conjecture. She founded her monastery in Kildare, the Church of the Oak Tree. Keel, meaning church, Dara, meaning oak, Kildara. So Kilkenny, Kildare actually in Cork. I wonder if that's something similar. Lots of counties and townlands and names with Keel meaning church. Every school child knows the song of Brigid and how her cloak covered the area we know today as the Curragh. Curragh is a pretty large tract of land if you've ever driven down the M7 there. And of course the race course is there. So that's some cloak that covered that area again, if it were true. We accept it in a certain simplicity of faith for sure. St. Brigid's Field is the other name for the Curragh. She's linked, of course, naturally with the earth and with agriculture, particularly with ploughing, sowing, milking, butter making, and of course her vibrant Christian faith. You see, some would kind of spin that and twist that out of shape, and she becomes a kind of earth warrior or Mother Earth or eco warrior. Is that the expression? And we can buy into a certain amount of that insofar as it helps us to love the things of the earth and the beauty of nature, and Ireland with its beautiful mild climate, which we certainly had the month of January must go on record. I haven't looked it up, as one of the mildest Januaries for a long time. Extraordinary. Did we have any freezing temperatures? I don't think so. But certainly the daffodils are flying up now, the crocuses, the snowdrops are all making their way out of the ground. And so springtime, this being the first day of spring, as we would view it, again associated with life. And again, we link that in, of course, with our vibrant Christian faith. The other lovely thing it featured in the Mass, the bhí an affran trí Gaeilge going sa studio an seo. And the text of the Mass in Irish today, some lovely prayers, and her love for the Buchtanacht, if that's correct now, she a great love for the poor, and renowned for her hospitality. Hence the first reading at Mass this morning, St. Paul's letter to the Romans, a lovely one to hold on to take to heart, that of making hospitality your special care. It's a really nice line of sacred scripture in St. Paul writing to the Romans. Make hospitality your special care. Always worthwhile and always a blessing indeed to make souls welcome. And in Ireland, of course, Céad Míle Fáilte, 100,000 welcomes. I think we are and have a name internationally as a land of hospitality. And there is no doubt, absolutely none whatever, but that is rooted in our Christian heritage, and also rooted in the great suffering of the Irish peoples over the centuries of persecution, certainly, and also deprivation through famine. So the Irish have been put upon and put against. And you can go back before English occupation and go back to the Vikings, go back to the various plundering and pillaging. St. Patrick himself was a victim of that, of course. Various the Danes, foreign forces invading and plundering Ireland. It was difficult, and we enjoy, like really in the past generation, we enjoy such high levels of comfort and convenience nowadays. Poverty is still with us, and very mindful of it too, and the great need for awareness and support of the poor. But let us continue in that great tradition that is ours indeed of hospitality. So the bishops say it's very appropriate that a new public holiday will honour St. Brigid as the secondary saint in Ireland to Patrick. For too long she has been lost in his shadow. We warmly welcome that Brigid is being rightly and long after time acknowledged. So it's a good idea to associate the bank holiday with St. Brigid. I think that's a thumbs up for that one. That's an emoji, a smiling emoji for that one. So just nice, a little bit of good news there. A little bit more on St. Brigid too, though, and this is coming from CatholicNewsAgency.com. There's quite a little passage as well in my Oxford Dictionary of Saints that I use, and very interesting too. Let me see here now. Excuse me. She directly influenced several other future saints of Ireland, and her many religious communities helped to secure the country's conversion from paganism to the Catholic faith. So while St. Patrick is certainly our patron, he didn't do it alone. No one does it alone. There is no going it alone in the spiritual life and in the apostolic and evangelical life. You get certainly noble leaders who step forward and lead and strive to work against the tidal waves of each given era by way of paganism and secularism and selfism and all those other things. It was paganism, of course, back in the day of St. Patrick and St. Brigid. And so while you have these great figures, the Lord puts great saints before us. Just look around you today. Look around and look in our own lifetime. And look at all the holy popes that we've had, the canonized popes, St. John Paul II, St. John Paul I is, well, he's going to be blessed. Is he declared blessed in later this year? St. John the 23rd, St. Paul VI, St. Pius X. Oh, listen, the Lord has blessed us with just a plethora of extraordinary church leaders. And then in our own lifetime, St. Teresa, Mother Teresa of Calcutta, St. Padre Pio, died in 1968. And then you can go wider. I mean, there's an absolute litany of so many great saints. Blessed Carlo Acutis, St. Gianna Molla, extraordinary saints of our days. And many martyrs in the church, of course, in these times too. So St. Brigid and St. Patrick, so they weren't working in isolation. They had great people and no doubt sponsors and patrons who were very good to them. And I see the same at work here on the radio. We're doing the same thing as St. Brigid, St. Patrick were alive. They'd be at the microphone here and I'd be interviewing them. And they might not be of any great note in their time, which is interesting. The recognition of great saints is often done in retrospect, that time has to pass, and then you look back and say, man, look at the work they did. So I'm a big fan of Frank Duff, the servant of God, Frank Duff. That man is a complete legend. I mean, we use the word and we use it kind of flippantly at times, but he ranks up there as the most extraordinary layman. And the influence of the Legion of Mary has just extended the world over. Most extraordinary. And then count up all the great legionaries. If you're in the Legion or if you've ever been involved with the Legion, you may have come across such heroic souls, lay men and women in our generation. Absolutely fantastic. And Alfie Lamb, Edel Quinn, Father Aidan McGrath. Sure, listen. And I know I've met many great legionaries over the years who are just doing heroic, absolutely heroic work for the faith and for the church. So it's happening today. We only have to look around. So her cross of St. Brigid is made of reeds or straw, placed in homes for blessing and protection, and even some Eastern Catholics and Eastern Orthodox Christians also celebrate her feast. She has been profiled, it tells me here, many times by both ancient and modern writers, but it's notoriously hard to establish the historical details of her life. We know that well. We have that problem every time an Irish saint comes to the fore, that we remember, the facts are scanty, the details are kind of thin. So the various accounts of St. Brigid, it tells me here, make many conflicting claims. And according to one of the more credible biographies of Brigid, Hugh de Balcam's essay in The Saints of Ireland, on which the following account is based, most historians place her birth around the year 450, near the end of St. Patrick's evangelistic mission. Yeah, I mean that the two of them knew each other. I had St. Patrick pitched somewhere in the 4th century, not the 5th century, so I doubt very much they crossed paths. Brigid apparently, and this is one of the more credible biographies, was born out of wedlock, the daughter of a pagan chieftain named Duvdak, or Duvdak, I suppose. Dubhach maybe might be a better. Duv, of course, in Irish means black. And born of the chieftain and a Christian slave woman named Bricshach. The chieftain sold the child's pregnant mother to a new master, but contracted for Brigid to be returned to him eventually. According to Blackham, this is the biographer, the child was probably baptized as an infant and raised as a Catholic by her mother. Thus she was well formed in the faith before leaving Bricshach's slave quarters at around age 10 to live with Dubhach and his wife. Within the new circumstances of the chieftain's household, Brigid's faith found expression in feats of charity. From the abundance of her father's food and possessions, she gave generously to the poor. Dubhach became enraged and threatened to sell Brigid. There was a lot of buying and selling in slavery, wasn't there? I mean, you think slavery is something distant. No, slavery is on our doorstep too. And in fact, slavery today, and I'm glad to see some of those ads popping up every now and again, reminding us of slavery and women and children, trafficking. It goes on today. Be very mindful of these things. So he threatened to sell Brigid, who was not recognised as a full family member, but worked as a household servant, Brigid did. So he's going to sell her to the King of Leinster. But the Christian king understood Brigid's acts of charity and convinced Dubhach, would that be right? Yeah, Dubhach, Dublin, I suppose Dubhach, to grant his daughter her freedom. Released from servitude, Brigid was expected to marry, but she had other plans which involved serving God in consecrated life. She even disfigured her own face. This is according to the biography, marring her beauty in order to dissuade suitors. You hear that from time to time of some of the women saints doing so. It seems like going to an extreme, really. Understanding he could not change her mind, Dubhach granted Brigid permission to pursue her plan and material means by which to do so. Thus did a pagan nobleman, through this gift to his illegitimate daughter, play an unintentional but immense part in God's plan for Ireland. So God can use even the oddest and unusual of circumstances. While consecrated religious life was part of the Irish Church before the time of St. Brigid, it had not yet developed the systematic character seen in other parts of the Christian world by the 5th century. Excuse me. Tomorrow, of course, the 2nd of February, the Feast of the Presentation, is a day for consecrated life. We'll chat more about that tomorrow. So among women, vows of celibacy at Brigid's time and were often lived out in an impromptu manner in the circumstances of everyday life or with the aid of particular benefactors. Brigid, with an initial group of 7 companions, is credited with organising communal, consecrated religious life for women in Ireland. Bishop Mel of Ardagh, St. Patrick's nephew and later Saint Mel, he's in our litany too there by lunchtime, accepted Brigid's profession as a nun, and according to tradition the disfigurement she had inflicted on her face disappeared that day and her beauty returned. Again, these are lovely traditions. Truth, again, we have no way of knowing. St. Mel went on to serve as a mentor to the group during their time in Ardagh. Around the time of his death in 488, because Brigid was Louth, wasn't it, Dundalk, where she was born. Brigid community got an offer to resettle, so their destination then became known today as Kildare, Kildara, Church of the Oak, after the main monastery which she founded there. And as we heard there from the Bishop of Kildare, the Curragh, apparently that tract of land associated with her, to what's it called, St. Brigid's Field. So St. Brigid's life as a nun was rooted in prayer, but it also involved substantial manual labour, cloth making, dairy farming and raising sheep. In Ireland, as in many other regions of the Christian world, this communal combination of work and prayer attracted vast numbers of people during the 6th century. So again, building up small Christian communities, indeed as can happen today too, but obviously for protection, but also for association, for education, and for the sense of sharing and then the sort of the good communal living that Christianity and faith would lend itself to. So we're seeing that happening even today as well. You know, there's a kind of fellowship, a sense of community among Catholics in Ireland today. And we see it here on the radio, that we have a lovely, vibrant community of radio listeners. And we enjoy each other's company, and we're uplifted and strengthened by one another. It's the very same. We might not have to have a monastery where we sit and cultivate the land and share the goods at that level, but we do it in a different way. The very same idea again. So Kildare, however, was unique as the only Irish double monastery because it included a separately housed men's community led by the Bishop St. Conleth, one of the patrons there of Kildare and Loughlin. Interesting, isn't it? A double monastery. From this main monastery then, Brigid's movement branched out to encompass a large portion of Ireland. It is not clear just how large, but it is evident that Brigid travelled widely throughout the island, founding new houses and building up a uniquely Irish form of monasticism. When she was not travelling, many pilgrims, including prominent clergy and some future saints, made their way to Kildare seeking the advice of the abbess. So a formidable woman indeed. Under Brigid's leadership, Kildare played a major role in the successful Christianization of Ireland. The abbess's influence was felt in the subsequent era of the Irish Church, a time when the country became known for its many monasteries and their intellectual achievements. Again, the great outreach in those two great outpourings of missionary movement from Ireland in the Dark Ages, of course, after a couple of centuries, I suppose, thereabouts, after St. Brigid and the establishment of Christianity in Ireland, we became very missionary. And then, of course, the 19th, 20th centuries, huge outflow of missionaries again to the world from Ireland. We're a most extraordinary country when you look at our history. So it was a time for many monasteries, and of course a great time for intellectual achievement. And again, a time there's any number of artifacts and relics and testimonies of, again, ruins of buildings and monastic buildings to show this huge monastic influence here in Ireland in terms of education and formation and communal living. Enormous influence in Ireland over the years. And this is why, again, I maintain that not far under the surface, not far away at all, in so many of us here in Ireland, there's a faith that goes deep, deep, deep down. Unlike other countries, say in the United States, where they can only go back centuries, we can go back a millennium and a half, and there's a deep, deep faith there. And again, because of the closeness of our community, if you're from Ireland, you won't be long. If you meet somebody abroad, you'll make some connection somewhere, somebody belonging to someone. And we'll always make a link somehow, just to being the small country that we are. And there's something associated, connected in there with the life of faith that we share as well. It's in the blood. It's in our psyche. It's there. So for all the secular influences and for all the negative influences that militate against church and faith, and indeed for all the faults and failings, to confess and be open and very honest too, of the church and members of the church, even for all of that, as Sister Evangelist, you hear a jingle coming out from time to time, the church, she loves the church with all its faults. I love the way she expresses that. That's why we're in it, because I am faulty. It's not the healthy who need the doctor, it's the sick. So in spite of all of that, we've seen over the years, and anyone who's been around any length of time knows well the immense charity and work and blessings that flow through the church and through faith in Ireland. All the volunteer work, all the people who do so much good, building up communities in gentle, quiet ways. So many people. And I say that when we visit churches and parishes around the country, it's just been a lovely eye-opener for me. And I must count, I don't know if I've been to 75 or 100 parishes by now. Maybe it's not as much as that, I don't know. But over the last 4 years, I've been to a string of parishes. Everywhere I go, it's just lovely to see the congregations of faith-filled men and women and families gathering and coming to church. The faith is not dead. It is far from dead in Ireland. They're very, very good and wonderful, holy and wholesome people still flocking to our churches all over the country. I have seen it myself. I have been there. If St. Brigid travelled around the country, well, I did it too. And we're heading up to Downpatrick, please God. This is the land of Patrick now, in the weekend after next. So really looking forward to going up to the north. And we'll be going to Banbridge, I think, some weeks later. I forget where else we have lined up. I was chatting to Ruth. We'll be heading off around the country again, coming to a spot near you. Bishop Fonzie very kindly opened the door for us there in Waterford. He was in touch with me there lately and said, look, come on down, start making a few visits, and please God, with permission again of local priests, we'll head down southeast again. So this is what I'm saying to you. The faith is far from dead. Just don't listen to all the negative commentary. There are those who would wish to see it over and done and out of but what they're not doing it is failing to see all the great good and all of the wonderful people. Yes, vocations are dwindling away rapidly, and I would see that certainly as a multifaceted thing, but the influence indeed of the secular world, young men and young women perhaps not listening in this as they ought to or as they used to, and we have to find some way of allowing the Lord to speak to the hearts and minds of our young people again. He's still calling, but the ears are being filled and the hearts being filled with worldliness, but they are there. So let's conclude. St. Brigid of Kildare, again, she's just a huge influence in Ireland. She died around the year 525. She is said to have received the last sacraments from a priest, St. Ninig, if that would be pronounced correctly, whose vocation she had encouraged. Veneration of St. Brigid grew in the centuries after her death and spread outside of Ireland through the work of the country's monastic missionaries. No, I like that little account there. It's quite a credible one, is the way the author puts it too, because it's not dwelling on the legendary dimensions or elements of it at all. Now, I have a lovely piece of music lined up for you, and thanks to Mina Luca. Mina is in regular contact with us. She's been to visit us here too, and she's composed and sung a lovely little song, stroke hymn, religious song, that we'll be glad to add into our playlist about St. Brigid today. Because there isn't a big plethora of music in relation to her, but it's certainly there. She certainly features. So now, just to finish then with the lovely blessing of St. Brigid. May Brigid bless this house again. Let me hold up my little and bless your house. Here, I'll issue you a blessing here today. May Brigid bless your house wherein you dwell and we dwell. Bless every fireside, every wall and door. Bless every heart that beats beneath its roof. Bless every hand that toils to bring its joy. Bless every foot that walks portals through. May Brigid bless the house that shelters us. So do have your little St. Brigid's cross to hand, and maybe put it somewhere prominently in your house and invoke her. St. Brigid of Ireland, pray for us. Now, do please get in touch 089 467 2000 to text and WhatsApp today. Do email info@radiomaria.ie, and do call us on 014 123456. And thanks to Mina Luca for this lovely piece of music of and about St. Brigid.
Oh, come to me, Saint Brigid of Kildare.
Yeah, sorry about that, Jesus. Is that coming from the studio phone there? It's a case of hitting the play button there again, or it's just disappeared. It was online, was it? Okay. So have another go out there, Jesus, and see if you can muster it up there again, and see can we get it back up and running for you once more. If not, we'll line it up for a little bit later. So very good. I see as well that the Vatican News featured there lately the remembrance, the 50th anniversary of the Bloody Sunday massacre in Derry in Northern Ireland. What a deep wound in the heart of our nation, and all the troubles in the north. Certainly growing up myself way down south in Cork, not really having any idea, and I still to this day I put my hands up there. I think only those who live in the north, who lived through it, would properly understand the great terror and the horror and the awfulness of that. But it's a deep wound, certainly, in our lives. I used to try and bring it up as part of our religion class in school to remind the generation after me, if you like, who again, because we're now enjoying an era of relative peace, would not have had any inkling of the troubles in Northern Ireland at all, and just wouldn't understand it. But there's some video, and there's music, and there's again, it's something that shouldn't be lost from our history. Deep tragedy. So it took place on the 30th of January 1972. 14 people lost their lives on the streets of Derry. And there's the famous photograph of then Father Edward Daly, who became Bishop Daly, is Bishop Emeritus of Derry now, waving his handkerchief as a white flag. It's kind of iconic image, and it's been depicted in murals in Derry City, and his attempt to escort one of the victims to safety. And it speaks volumes, doesn't it, to our generation. We do not want to go back there. We really don't. So Dr. Daly was a 39-year-old curate in St. Eugene's Cathedral at the time, the day 13 Catholics were killed by British soldiers. And an apology was issued. The Savile Judicial Inquiry issued an apology in 2010 and found that the victims on that day were innocent and had posed no threat to the military. I remember I was in the secondary school at that time and I played for them on video, because they're up on YouTube, some of the live footage of the awfulness of that day, black and white of course, and again the iconic image of Bishop Daly. And then the announcement in public in Belfast then, and the apology of the Prime Minister, which was just a great vindication for all the families at the time. And, at least, again, an acknowledgement by the British government of the failure of the soldiers on that day. Gosh. So, yes, recorded following the publication. There's an interview, let's see, of the Savile report on the 16th of June 2010. Bishop Daly spoke to Vatican News about the relief he felt at the exoneration of those who lost their lives, and he described living through what he called the worst day of his life. Must have been deeply. Well, I mean, how many lives were lost, families destroyed, and peace just torn asunder in minds and hearts. So may they all rest in peace, and may that peace that Christ can bring continue in our country, north and south too. So just remember the victims there of Bloody Sunday, and that we hold that close to our hearts, so we might never go back there, no more. Even Bono and U2 used to sing about that, no more violence, any other way, negotiation always. So St. Brigid, pray for us, St. Brigid indeed. So let's have a listen again to me and Lucas. She's lined up there. Hopefully this time we'll be okay, Jesus. So away you go, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Oh, come to me, Saint Brigid of Kildare, patroness of Ireland, listen to our prayer. Crosses of rushes we make on your day, to heal and to guide us on our way. Woman of peace and reconciliation, carer of the earth and the poor, your flame will light forever across our holy nation. The joy you bring, angels sing. Oh, come to me, Saint Brigid of Kildare, patroness of Ireland, listen to our prayer. Crosses of rushes we make on your day, to heal and to guide us on our way. You brought the faith, spirit of goodwill. You light in us the fire of love. We drink the waters from your holy well. To rejoice and pray, we sing today. Oh, come to me, Saint Brigid of Kildare, patroness of Ireland, listen to our prayer. Crosses of rushes we...
Hello, I'm Dr. Gavin Kerr.
And I'm nGael Palmer.
And we will be here every Thursday from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock for the new show Faith and Reason, where we will be discussing philosophical issues relating to all matters of faith.
Welcome back. Thanks, Nita Mina. Luca, lovely piece of music on the St. Bridget. Jesus, you're getting very good at the sign language there. I suppose when you're a native Spanish speaker too as well, it helps to have a bit of sign language in an English-speaking country. Very good. Now I've been educated here, I must say, in relation to the bank holidays in the United States. And they've New Year's Day, of course, and Christmas Day, as we do too. Thanksgiving Day, I mentioned. But they also have Independence Day. Shame on me for not recognising that one. There's President's Day, Veterans Day. Nice to hear that one too. Columbus Day, I suppose when the Columbus found America, or landed maybe, which is interesting too. And Juneteenth. Now this is one I have to confess my ignorance on. Just Googled it there. And Juneteenth is the 19th of June, which celebrates the emancipation of African American slaves. That's a very important day to remember, absolutely. Juneteenth is a sort of a strange name, I think, to give it. Maybe there's some story behind that too. But you would have thought it would be Day of Emancipation. It would be to recognise it sort of specifically. For what it is. So yes, thanks Kathy Lean. She's saying it's true. I know there tends to be kind of a focus on Saint Brigid as a kind of even as a saint, just Brigid as a kind of a goddess, Celtic warrior, and this is who we're honouring her. And really, I mean, it's denial. I mean, it is patent denial, because she's none of those things. I mean, she wouldn't be remembered at all if it wasn't for Christianity. It's bizarre that, or maybe it's not bizarre. It's in keeping with the kind of mindset that we seem to see often enough today. A kind of the black isn't the new white. That sort of way of thinking. A sort of way of twisting facts and reality completely around on its head and saying, well, this is the new truth is actually not the truth. This whole era of fake news, I suppose, it's consistent, isn't it? And it's bizarre. It really is. How can the what is not true now all of a sudden be true? It's the times we're living in. It's no doubt it's diabolic. The devil likes to sow confusion all over the place. But come on, I mean, Brigid, really. Anyway, I won't harp on. Good news though in Kilkenny today. Thanks to Mary Keeley, she sent in a message that the annual St. Brigid's Day service takes place in St. Fiacre's Church in Kilkenny today, this evening at 7:30. And this is the 20th year of this service, which will be led this evening by Father Willie Purcell. He's the National Diocesan Vocations Coordinator. Father Willie's been on with us a number of times too. And the Kilkenny Gospel Choir will be present there. Mary's the PRO, the Public Relations Officer there. Thanks, Mary Keeley. 7:30 this evening in St. Fiacre's Church in Kilkenny. If you're in or around, the annual St. Brigid's Day service is taking place there too. Very good. Fantastic. So thanks for that lovely prayer there. That Anne sent in the blessing for St. Brigid as well, which I just prayed with you a little bit earlier. So very good. We kind of a focus today for you on our secondary patroness, St. Brigid of Kildare, Keeldara. And certainly we could do with invoking her, and certainly indeed having your St. Brigid's cross to hand. And thanks very much to Margaret Griffin. She'll be on at 2 o'clock, of course, today, and she'll no doubt be referring to St. Brigid and the cross. And don't forget that video is available on our Facebook page here if you want to learn how to make the St. Brigid's cross there as well and keep it handy. And it kind of goes hand in hand in a certain way with Palm Sunday, doesn't it? That the palms we keep in the house too, and they kind of wither and fade away. But they're a lovely mark and a sign, a way of marking the day that's in it, and the faith that we have received. We are so truly blessed. So thank God for St. Brigid, who is indeed our patron saint, and her love for the poor, her charity, and that lovely line from the scripture today associated with St. Brigid, make hospitality your special care. So maybe that's something you might consider certainly today and going forward, that we are known in Ireland for our hospitality. Make it your care also too. Very good. It's been lovely having your company today. Thank you for being part of Radio Maria, and thank you too for all the blessings you bring to us by your presence, by your prayers, by letting others know, and by assisting us financially. We're so grateful to so many wonderful souls. May St. Brigid bless you today. I'll take my leave of the microphone here now and of the camera. We'll pause for our Angelus bells, and we'll return to pray together our Angelus and midday prayer.